Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our masterclass today. This is going to be so much fun. We're going to be answering all of your questions live on the air after we have this presentation. And I just love doing these masterclasses because you get them when you do our Mineral Power program. We do about one a month, and we talk about various subjects or have guests on. And it's really fun because it engages the community and everyone gets their questions answered. They've been, dying to answer if they're not working with a practitioner. And so it's just really a lot of fun to do. So I wanted to finally do one with you guys, with everyone that's on our email newsletter list. And I wanted to educate you guys about the toxic metals that cause fatigue. So I have my friend Ari Whiten here to interview me because I thought it'd be a little bit more engaging if somebody interviews me. And so let's do this.
Hey everyone, I'm here with Wendy Myers, who I had the pleasure of meeting a couple months ago, and we hit it off. We had a wonderful conversation, and so I invited her to do this webinar with you all on the subject of detoxing. So let me introduce her by kind of telling you a little about her. Wendy Myers is the founder of live to110.com and mineralpower.com. She is a detox guru, functional diagnostic nutritionist, and NES bioenergetic practitioner in LA, California. She is the #1 best-selling author of Limitless Energy, How to Detox Toxic Metals and End Exhaustion and Chronic Fatigue. She uses hair mineral analysis and other functional medical tests to design custom mineral power detox programs. Passionate about the importance of detox to live a long, disease-free life, she is a sought-after speaker, appearing on countless summits and podcasts. She is host of the popular Live to 110 podcast. In 2018, she will unveil the Detox Institute to teach practitioners how to properly use and interpret toxic metal tests like hair mineral analysis, urine, and stool tests. Awesome. So that's quite a bio. I love it. I'm excited for you to unveil the Detox Institute.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for having me also.
Yeah, so welcome. And you want to just jump right into this?
Yes, absolutely. Well, you know what? I'll tell you a little bit about my story and kind of
Cool.
how I got into health. Like a lot of people, I found myself at, mid 30s and taking really good care of myself, great diet, organic diet, cooking my food at home, taking amazing supplements and exercising, trying to sleep, and generally taking really good care of myself. And I still didn't feel well. And I think a lot of women find themselves, or people in general at, a certain age in their 30s or 40s, and they're taking fantastic care of themselves and they don't feel their best, or they don't recognize themselves in the mirror. They're exhausted, they're brain fogged, their libido is non-existent, or they have multiple health diagnoses or on multiple medications. And so I just delved into why I was having all these issues and just wasn't feeling well. So I went to a medical doctor, did all these tests, and found out I had the hormone levels of a menopausal woman at 37, and severe adrenal fatigue and vitamin deficiencies and low thyroid function. And I thought that's so odd because I take such good care of myself. And I went on a journey to, try to address my health issues naturally, because the doctor wanted to put me on hormone replacement therapy. And I thought that's not really how I envisioned my life at 37, to be on hormone replacement therapy.
Yeah,
And
understandable.
testosterone creams and all this other kind of stuff that she wanted to give me. So I went searching on the internet, and in my research over years, I kept hitting on toxins and metals and toxins in our environment being a primary driver of disease and health issues. And so I really focused in on that. And unfortunately, my father was diagnosed with esophageal cancer at one point, and again hit the research trying to help him, but he passed away from his cancer treatments. And so that really hit home, and I decided to start live to 110.com, my website, in his honor, and to publish my findings and my research.
Ah, beautiful. Very cool. So where did this transition to energy? Because I know that's a big focus of yours now, and specifically within energy, really detoxification. So I know you have a new book called Limitless Energy, which I've read and is awesome, by the way. And so in that book, you talk all about the link between toxins and specifically metals and fatigue. So can you just talk a little bit about, that connection, what that whole link is about?
Yes, well, there's a specific set of toxic metals that promote fatigue. So there's arsenic, aluminum, tin, thallium, cesium, and mercury and lead that I discuss in the book. But certain metals specifically poison enzymes that transport nutrients into your mitochondria. And your mitochondria are your body's powerhouses. They make your body's energy. They make ATP. And if you're not able, if you have a lot of these toxic metals in your body, which all of us do, you're just not going to be able to produce the amount of energy that your body is capable of. And these metals cause a myriad number of symptoms, but so many people suffer from fatigue, and I've seen thousands of clients, and their number one complaint is fatigue. And so I started just delving into why is that? Why is everybody so tired, and what are the underlying root causes of that? And I knew metals had something to do with it because all the research I've done, every single health condition has some sort of metal component to it that's the promoter of it or the outright cause of it, and fatigue is no different.
Yeah, interesting. So why are these metals actually, first of all, accumulating in our bodies? I guess we'll start there as a first question. So where do they come from? How do they get into our bodies?
So metals come into our bodies from the air, food, and water. So they're pretty much unavoidable. And we're breathing in, every day we're breathing in aluminum, mercury, and other metals that are just from, industry, incinerating products and waste products, and then the burning of coal. Mercury and cadmium and other metals get into the air, and then that settles into our oceans. And then the mercury and cadmium get into our fish and our shellfish and our food supply. And unfortunately, I don't mean to be really depressing, but there's a lot of metals in our soils that then get into our food and get into meats and things of that nature. So no matter what you do, no matter how healthy you are, you cannot avoid metals that you're ingesting in the air, food, and water. So no matter what precautions that you take, even though it's probably a good idea to reduce the large migratory fish intake and do other sensible things, use non-toxic beauty products and things of that nature. Unfortunately, there's 100,000 chemicals in our environment. There's dozens of toxic metals, and they just make our way into our bodies and settle in our tissues and our fat and our bones, in our brain, cause brain fog, and cause a lot of other problems.
Yeah. And I know you said you didn't want to be depressing, but I think the reality of this is that it really is kind of depressing. It's kind of depressing how much we've toxified our world such that we now have toxins that are scientifically proven to cause health problems and energy problems in our air, in our water, in our soil, in the food we eat, the air we breathe. I mean, they're just everywhere, and the cosmetics we put on our skin. And I mean, it really is just kind of crazy when you start getting into this stuff to realize how ubiquitous toxins are, even if you're a health conscious person. And they're just that, like, almost everything you do and everywhere you go, you're exposed to something.
Yeah, and it is very depressing. I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but there's a lot of things that you can do. I mean, there's a lot of control that you do have, and that's kind of my mission and my purpose in life is try to teach people and bring awareness to where they're getting these toxins in their body and what they can do to avoid them and how to identify them through testing and how to detox them slowly and safely.
Yeah. So how does this relate to fatigue, and like what's going on a physiological level that these metals are accumulating in our bodies, and then how does that actually translate into certain symptoms like the experience of fatigue, lack of energy, and all the others?
Yeah. So number one, what I talked about earlier is there's a certain type of metal that will poison enzymes that transport nutrients into our mitochondria. So if you don't have the right nutrients to make energy, you're not going to be able to produce energy at the capability your body can. And so that will reduce energy production. But there's also other things that interfere in thyroid function. So mercury tends to build up in the thyroid, in the pituitary, in the hypothalamus, and interferes in thyroid hormone production and signaling. There's a very delicate feedback, loop that tells the body when to produce hormones and how much. And so if you don't make enough thyroid hormones, you're going to be depressed, tired, overweight, because the thyroid sets your metabolism. And mercury also will prevent the conversion of T4 to T3. And we can go really, really deep into this. But, metals also interfere in gut function and our gut integrity, and will prevent the absorption of nutrients. So obviously if you can't absorb your food very well, you're not going to be able to utilize that to produce energy in various ways. So it really interferes in energy production, or metals interfere in any energy production many, many different ways.
Mm. So I know you mentioned cesium, thallium, mercury, arsenic, lead. Was there any others I'm missing there?
Yes, pretty much arsenic, aluminum, tin, thallium, cesium, mercury, and lead. Yeah.
Okay. So are those the main ones of concern, or are there any others that we should be worried about?
Yeah, so those are the main ones. Cesium is an interesting one. Cesium is being released into our environment from the Fukushima nuclear disaster that happened in 2011. And so that is releasing alarming amounts of cesium into our environment and into anyone eating a lot of sushi or fish from the Pacific. And I'm a sushi addict, so not any longer so much, but I, became very cesium toxic based on urine testing because of the amount of, not necessarily tuna so much, but other types of fish I was eating from the Pacific and shellfish. And so that's a really big problem. And that interferes in potassium channels in your body and will interfere and promote, adrenal fatigue and other types of issues. Then there's thallium. Thallium is one that not many people know about. That's actually a gasoline additive. And that will it's definitely a factor in anyone who has chronic fatigue. And the reason thallium is added to gasoline is it prevents knocking in car engines. And this is the same reason that we added lead to gasoline, because it makes the engines last longer.
You said it prevents knocking? Is that what you said?
Knocking, yeah. So it's just knocking. We used leaded in the past, leaded gasoline, because it just makes the car engines run smoother.
Okay.
So we don't notice that there's knocking, because we did away with that with adding lead to the gasoline, and now we add thallium to the gasoline.
So thallium came in as a replacement for lead when we did unleaded gasoline.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's
beautiful.
Yeah, isn't it nice? And nobody knows about it, not even most detox experts.
Yeah,
and so
I actually was totally unaware of that. I know we went unleaded, and I was like, oh, now it's pure gasoline and we don't have to worry about it. But now they replaced one bad thing with another. It's kind of like, the whole deal with BPA free stuff.
Exactly.
And they advertise this stuff as BPA free, and now it's starting to come out that the chemicals that they use in place of BPA, like BPS and
or worse,
getting the name of, are just as bad or maybe even worse.
Yes. And that same thing with thallium. Thallium is actually 10 times more toxic than mercury.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
Yeah, it's very, very, and it's actually used in assassination attempts in Russia because it kills people.
So people who have come onto this webinar are getting a little bonus info there in case they want to assassinate anyone.
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, it gets into our brains. It will prevent certain parts of our brain from communicating with each other. It prevents the absorption of nutrients. It's very, very nasty. So it's definitely involved in people that have brain fog or that have chronic fatigue. And so there's just a lot of these insidious metals that people aren't aware of, it, that we're breathing them in and eating them every day.
Now, I know that the book Limitless Energy really focuses on this, and I think Mineral Power really focuses on detoxing from heavy metals. So you've kind of zeroed in your focus on that. Is that because you believe this is the primary cause of fatigue and like the biggest needle mover for people to get better?
Yes, there's a lot of different causes of fatigue. And I feel like if you're eating a really good diet and you're doing a reasonable amount of exercise, and you're going in the sun, and you're just doing a lot of things for your health, and you're still exhausted, or you're even too tired to do those things, I think toxins are a primary driver of fatigue. And
Yeah.
they're definitely a primary driver of disease today. There's new diseases we have that we didn't have, 30 years ago. And the
Yeah.
reason is because we have more and more and more chemicals and toxins unleashed into our environment every single day. And it's only going to get worse. So you have to have a daily detox strategy in order to combat all the toxins that we have in our body and that we're going to be exposed to every day.
Yeah. You just reminded me of a little quote from Joe Pizzorno's book, where he talks about, this is a guy who's been in practice for so many decades, and he talks about 30, 40 years ago, how the types of health problems that they were seeing in the clinic were more around nutrient deficiencies and things of that nature. And now they're seeing problems that are mostly related to toxicities and just too much accumulation of too much nasty stuff in the body.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have 100,000 chemicals and dozens of metals, and no one is exempt. I mean, at some point, these toxins cause various problems in your body, and you have to be thinking at some point, if you get a diagnosis or have fatigue or severe brain fog, you really want to be thinking about detoxification and adding that to your health regime.
Yeah, for sure. And I have to say that just on a more personal note, for me and my exploration of the science around this area, I have really kind of avoided the area of toxins. And it's been mostly intentional, actually. And the reason why is just because there's so much pseudoscientific garbage out on the subject of toxins and detoxing that I didn't want to talk about it, because I didn't even want to be associated with the people that were talking about it. And what I really love about what you've done is you've brought so much science into it. And it's not just about, oh, here's pop this colon cleanser pill and, do a colonic and detox and drink green juices. And, it's not vague allusions to like random toxins. It's like, no, let's talk about this specific toxin, this specific metal. What are the specific physiological mechanisms? What's the research around, the specific ways that science has shown you can detox this specific chemical? And just, I love that you've brought in the science to what is otherwise a largely kind of woo-woo, kind of wacky pseudoscientific area.
Yeah, well, it's really completely selfish because I really just trying to figure out how to detox myself. But but I'm kind of a nerd, so I like to read all this stuff and read science and medical journals and things since I was a teenager. So it's just, I don't know, I just kind of write the article that I would want to read if I was looking to delve into that subject. So that's really where it came about. That I get annoyed too when I read, oh, do a 3-day juice cleanse or this 10-day detox in a box. It's a bunch of BS. And so for me, I just want to talk about and for myself, learn what are the most effective detox protocols, what supplements remove this particular metal that you might have. Like, what are the top supplements to remove mercury or to remove cesium or very rare metals people have? Sometimes I have clients that have beryllium toxicity or have gadolinium toxicity, or things that are really not well known. And so really for any type of metal that I'm able to define on a urine, hair, or stool metals analysis, we have a solution for it.
Very cool. So on that note, let's get into some of the practical side of things. Like, so we've talked about, what can happen when you're toxic in these metals, and just the fact that almost everybody is pretty much guaranteed to be toxic in something, and probably multiple things. And it's at least a contributor to fatigue, if not the primary cause. So understanding that, what are some practical things that we can now do with that knowledge, and how do we get rid of the toxins?
So if someone's listening and they are like, you know what, I don't really have the money to work with a practitioner or do a bunch of testing, there's things that you can do at home. So I'd like to give people practical tips for things they can start today. And my two favorite supplements are Pectacell C and BioCell. So Pectosol C is a binder, and it's just made from it's modified citrus pectin essentially, but it has a lot of research behind it. It's the only modified citrus pectin with clinical studies behind it, and we know that it binds onto metals and toxins and chemicals, and you urinate them out. And it's a blood cleanser. It gets into your blood and starts cleaning it up. And if you're on a detox program, it's indispensable to bind onto any metals that you're mobilizing while doing an infrared sauna or any kind of detox protocol or supplementation program.
Mm-hmm.
And with Pectosol C, you want to take about 5 to 10 grams of it per day. And you want to take it about an hour away from medication, supplements, and food, because it's a binder. You don't want it binding up to, your thyroid medication or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also really love BioSil, because BioSil is one of the main and most effective supplements for detoxing the metals that cause fatigue. So aluminum, arsenic, tin, thallium, and cesium, and antimony as well, which I have in my water, my tap water. So you'd want to take about 6 to 10 drops per day. And for some people, that's going to be too much, because if they have severe chronic fatigue, 1 to 2 drops may be just enough for them, because you're starting, when you take this BioSil, you start to mobilize the metals that cause fatigue. So it can take energy to process them. And you want to make sure, if you're taking BioSil, that you're also taking the binder Pectosol C to bind to all the things that you're mobilizing with the BioSil. And BioSil is interesting because it's actually marketed as a hair, skin, and nail product. It has a certain form of silica in it, so it gives you really strong, healthy hair. My clients turn into little healthy chia pets with their hair. But a lot of people taking it don't realize that they're taking a really strong detox agent. So just be aware when you're taking it, how you feel. 'Cause one time I thought, I'll take 20 drops a day. And so I started taking a lot, and within about a week, I'm like, God, I'm so tired. What is going on? And then I realized, like, oh, okay, hello, I'm taking too much BioSil. So be a little bit careful with them.
Yeah. Now, well, first of all, are there any other tips that you want to give around that? Or, well, actually, you know what? Before we get into that, I have a couple questions around BioSil. So it's silica primarily, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so it's mobilizing toxins. Do you know how it actually works to do that?
Well, it just binds onto them. So BioSil is attached, the silica in the BioSil is attached to a choline molecule. So that makes it have a particular bonding affinity for trivalent metals. Valence speaks to how things bond to each other. So it'll specifically bond onto trivalent metals like arsenic, aluminum, tin, thallium, and cesium. So it won't bind to other metals beyond that.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, I know that a lot of the toxins are actually stored kind of in tissues, and specifically fat cells. I've heard some people say that in order to mobilize those toxins effectively, you kind of have to be in a state of physiology where you're losing fat to some extent. Can you talk a little bit about that? Is that true, or is it possible to mobilize a lot of toxins and detox without necessarily losing any fat?
No, you don't have to be losing fat. I mean, that certainly could be helpful. I mean, especially if, a lot of people that are overweight, they are so because it's a protective mechanism, because the body needs to store chemicals somewhere. And one of the reasons that 2/3 of Americans are overweight is because all the chemicals in the food that we have in the air, food, and water. So a lot of people do have toxins stored in their fat. But you don't have to be on an active weight loss program to lose weight, because toxins are stored elsewhere. There's a ton of lead and aluminum in our bones. There's toxins stored in our brain, in our nervous system, in our muscles and our connective tissue. There's toxins can be stored everywhere. So you definitely do not have to be on a weight loss program. But, for people who are looking to lose weight, doing infrared saunas and taking detox supplements, really, really advised if you're doing a weight loss program.
Okay. So you just mentioned infrared saunas. Is that one of the other things that you were going to talk about? So how does that relate to detoxing?
Yeah, so infrared saunas are one of my favorite detox protocols. And this is another thing that you can do without working with a practitioner. And essentially, there's few different types of infrared saunas. So a lot of people have heard me talk about these before, but there's like, your typical sauna that you have at your gym. And that's not the sauna that I'm talking about. That's like a typical Finnish sauna, Swedish sauna, and it doesn't have the infrared rays that penetrate you inside your body and heat you up from the inside out. So that's what we're looking for. So that will be had with a far infrared sauna. And those are great. Those are the typical wooden saunas that, you'll see at a doctor's office or acupuncturist office or whatnot. But what I really, really like are near infrared saunas. So these are a bulb sauna. They have these red light bulbs on them. And because they have heat and light, the light will activate your mitochondria and act or simulate the rays of the sun to help you, your mitochondria charge up and power up, just as if you were sitting in the sun. And we know it's a really important component to increasing energy levels in our body. So not only do you get the detox benefit from sitting in a sauna and benefiting from the red light therapy and the near infrared rays of the sauna, but it's a really incredibly effective detox agent.
Beautiful. So because it's heating you up from the inside, is it just the act of sweating that's releasing the toxins, or what's actually going on, I guess, on a deeper physiological level that's causing a detox during sauna exposure?
Yeah, so it's working on a number of levels. Number one, the rays penetrate inside, so they heat up your cells. So it's almost like a hormesis action where it shocks your body. The heat, it's kind of a shock therapy that causes your cells to release toxins and to mobilize them. You also release things that are called heat shock proteins. These are components of your immune system. So you start killing off pathogens and viruses, and they can really help to keep infections under control. But you're also, like I said, sweating out all kinds of metals and chemicals, and there's a number of different actions. I mean, but that's kind of the main one, that the heat kind of shocks your body. It's almost like inducing a faux fever, where it raises your body temperature 2 or 3 degrees Fahrenheit. And that ends up, just helping your body to release toxins.
Beautiful. So is there a recommended way, like a full protocol that you have for kind of putting some of these pieces together? Is there, do you have any favorite or kind of your top most effective detox protocols that you'd recommend for people?
Yeah, really the infrared sauna, that's really one of my favorite ones that you can do at home, or you can go to a spa. You can go on, I think it's called, I forget what the name of the website is, but it's Spa Finder, spafinder.com. You can go on spafinder.com and find a sauna near you. You can also get, this is a really nice infrared LED system. You can get it on Amazon. It's called CM Vision IR130. And so that's a really, really nice LED therapy as well for near infrared that I'll use as well in my sauna.
Is that one 850 nanometers?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah, very good.
Very cool. So that's so sauna. Do you recommend combining that with the BioSil and citrus pectin in any way?
Yeah, absolutely. When you're doing infrared sauna, you're mobilizing a lot of metals and chemicals. So it's a really good idea to take a binder like the Pectisol C or any modified citrus pectin to absorb all the chemicals that you're releasing.
Beautiful. So how does one know if they're toxic? Is there a way? Are there good diagnostic tests? Is it based on symptoms? If somebody's watching this and they have no clue if their fatigue or maybe some of their other symptoms are related to toxins or any of the metals you've been talking about, how can they find that out?
Well, I always advise testing. I think people are always really surprised. I mean, I have very, very healthy people that I've tested, like Ben Greenfield or other people. I've done testing with Dr. Joe Mercola, and people are very surprised to see what toxins they have coming out of their body that they weren't aware of. So
yeah,
people
I know we talked about you doing a test for me, so I'm sure
yes.
You promised me that I'd be shocked, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, we need to set that up, by the way.
Yeah.
But Yeah. So even if you feel really, really healthy, you're still going to have toxins. I mean, as a rule, everyone has mercury, everyone has lead, everyone has aluminum. It's impossible to avoid. And so what's really important about testing is to figure out what particular substances or supplements that you need to take to remove your particular set of metals from your body. So I begin with a hair mineral analysis when I'm working with clients on my mineral power detox program. And that's, just take some hair from the back of your head. You can usually live without it. I know some people kind of panic when they have to think of cutting some of their hair off. But we use that. You just send that to the lab. You can do it from the comfort of your own home. And that gives us a tremendous amount of information about what's going on in your body, your mineral levels. It will give us a lot of your metals, but not all of them. There's no perfect test. There's no test that will tell you all of the metals that you have in your body. Then I also like to do urine tests with people if I think that that's warranted. That will give us another set of metals that are not available to be seen in a hair mineral analysis. And there's certain metals we can only see in stool, like cadmium and silver. Toxicity from metal fillings. We can only see that with a stool test. So there's a whole range of tests. But like I said, we start with a hair mineral analysis and go from there and take a health history.
Okay. So when you're doing like a urine test or a stool test, are these, do you have to do like a challenge test where you provoke release of some of these compounds, or are they just floating around in sort of the bloodstream all the time?
Yeah, so the hair mineral analysis, that's not needed because the hair gives about a 3-month average of what's being deposited from the body into the hair. The hair is kind of like a garbage can on your head, and your body will release a lot of toxins through your hair. And then with the urine, that is a provocation. That is a DMSA provocation, and not everyone can do that. If you're too ill, that's not recommended for you. And then stool test is not a provocation.
Gotcha. So what do you recommend as far as next steps? So let's say somebody believes that, or suspects that they have, some kind of toxicity, and based on, the fact that, like we talked about, these things are everywhere and pretty much everyone is toxic in something. It's a safe bet that that's the case. So what's kind of the next steps for listeners and people watching this who want to start detoxing? Should they just get Pectosol C and BioSil and start going into a sauna and just kind of have at it? Or what if they want to take things to the next level?
Yes, and that's certainly a beginning. I mean, there's certainly a lot of people that are dabbling in detox on their own, but ultimately it takes a trained professional to do the testing, to interpret the testing and figure out what customized supplement protocol that you need to detox, because it's it's a long road. Even if you do have done a detox program before, it's one of those things where it's not something you do for a few months. When I work with people, I try to teach them this is a lifelong strategy. These are what I'm trying to teach you is the tools and protocols and supplements that you can take for life to detox your body. And so if someone wants to do some testing, I have a special for my mineral power detox program of $100 off. You go to store.liveto110.com and press mineral power. And when you purchase your program, you type in MP Energy 100. So that's in all caps. And then you'll get $100 off my mineral power detox program.
So do you want to take some questions now, or?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm going to be here and answer all of your questions until we're done. So if anyone has any questions for me, just ask, just type it in to Webinar Jam, and I will answer them live on the air.
Beautiful. Well, in the meantime, thank you so much, Wendy. This has been absolutely great information, and I really appreciate you sharing it with my audience.
Thank you.
Yeah.